Good evening, Siouxland. Stacy here with Siouxland Magazine, and joining me today is Jennifer Jackson, and she is with Heartland Counseling. And so I want to just dive right in. Talk to us a little bit, Jennifer, about what exactly is Heartland Counseling, because you do more than just counseling.
We do. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we do a lot of work in the community. So a lot of us people think that we do just counseling. We do wraparound services in the community. We have a mobile crisis response team. We have the Life Center, which is our day rehab program. It's like a drop-in center. Anybody can come and eat breakfast and lunch there. And we do groups, we do yoga, art therapist. We go to an art therapist. We have a music therapist that comes. And we actually even have a dietitian that comes and teaches healthy eating. We have a school-based mental health program in the South Sioux City schools, and where the therapists are actually in the schools full time. So, and then our newest program is permanent supported housing, where we help homeless individuals that are chronically homeless and have some type of disability get into their forever homes. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you had said something right before we went live on here about it's basically these two organizations that people are aware of in Sioux City combined.
Yeah.
Can
So
you
a big
go
thing.
there?
Yeah, of course. So lots of people know about like Sula Mental Health or Rosecrans Jackson Recovery. And I always talk about if you put those two together, that's what we are on the Nebraska side. So the only little difference is we don't do any residential or hospitalization, but we do all the other things that those two organizations do, but on the Nebraska side. So we cover 11 counties in northern Nebraska, but all of Siouxland as well. So if you are from South Dakota or Iowa, you can still receive services through us at Heartland Counseling on the Nebraska side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you had said that, that really kind of just solidified that for me. And I'm like, okay,
Yes.
I get it. Because
Yeah.
I knew you were much more than counseling, but there's so many nonprofits and different organizations and support systems and
Right.
just trying to remember what each one does and
Exactly.
in full detail, especially
Yeah.
because so many offer so much more than what we kind of associate them with.
Well, and I think for a long time, excuse me, I think for a long time, people didn't really know what Heartland was. So Heartland's actually been around since 1977. But for several years, it wasn't until the late 90s, they were actually ran by the state. So they were all state employees on the Nebraska side, and it really was only Nebraska folks. And so it was in the late 90s that it ended up becoming a 501c3, and then really it took a couple more years. I've been here 8 years. And so I think my push has been to really work the collective impact model and work so closely with all the other organizations in town. And collaboration is really my philosophy, and how can we work together? And so I think throughout the years, that's just, people may have heard more about Heartland in the past couple years, and that's why, because things were just so different, I think, in the past. And it really was just even substance abuse counseling to begin with, because if you think about back 40 years ago, people that had mental health issues, you really just, it wasn't really talked about still. And people were still sent away. So it was really substance abuse counseling was the core in the beginning, but now it's just blossomed into all these other things. So, yeah.
And I would love to talk even about that for a little bit. That's something you just touched on, which, but you said back then, 40 years ago,
yes,
we didn't talk about this. And I would really even say right now it's getting better, but I still don't think we talk about it enough. We don't encourage people as much as we could or should to get help. Because life is complicated, it's complex. And so who doesn't need a little bit of support now and then? And I think it's a conversation that we really need to keep bringing to the forefront about the importance of mental health and getting help and being able to talk through things. Can we talk a little bit about that, Jennifer?
Yes, for sure. So first thing is, we're all human. You know, I've struggled with anxiety myself for several years, and I will never forget calling my OBGYN after I had my first son, and sitting in a parking lot on a Friday night sobbing. You know, he was 6 months old, and I was like, I just can't handle this. I had postpartum so bad, and I will never, and I remember crying, and I said, but I'm a therapist, and you know, how can I just can't be on medication. And I had gone to therapy for years because, excuse me, my dad died when I was 15, very sudden. So I had been in therapy for a long time, but had never even taken any medication. So I remember her saying, but Jennifer, you're a human being too. And so that has really resonated with me. That was 15 years ago. And just to know that it's okay, we're all human. And, you know, if you're struggling, then reach out, and it's okay, you know. And I think there's been such a stigma through the years that we have to be quiet about it. We can't talk about it. And I'm right here saying, you know, I'm the director of Heartland, struggle with anxiety and depression my whole life. And it's okay to see your own therapist, and it's okay to take medication if you need to do that. I would say that's, you know, last resort, obviously, but you know, if we really need to take care of ourselves. And I just did this presentation, and I talk about this chain link, and this chain link is, you know, our emotional health, our physical health, our spiritual health. And if one of those chains are broken, then we're weaker. And so we really need to take care of ourselves and look at it goes back to Maslow's hierarchy. It goes back to our basic needs, you know, eating, sleeping, and drinking lots of water. It's especially right now through all of this pandemic, it's, you know, people think of self-care as this luxurious spa day, or, you know, it's really not. It's just, if you're hungry, you need to eat. If you're thirsty, you need to drink. If you're not feeling good, then you need to go to the doctor. And, you know, if you're feeling sad and upset, reach out to somebody. We're social beings, and it's okay to reach out to that person and say, I need help. And so I think that's a big takeaway about self-care. And, you know, if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to reach out for help and ask that person and, you know, your loved one. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to them, then reach out to a therapist. So, yeah.
And you brought up something interesting, because, you know, we do exercise. Like, that is so, like, when we talk about physical health, that's just a given that we're supposed to go and we're supposed to exercise. But yet mental health, I mean, that is a huge part of our overall health, is one of the factors. And yet it's not something that we pursue as far as being able to work through things. It's more of, if something is really bad, then even then it's then maybe. I've talked to so many people who associate mental health counseling or needs with, well, if they've got substance abuse or if they've got chemical imbalance. And I think you're driving home such an important point that, no, we're human. Like, life is complex. You know, I can relate when you said, you lost your parent at 15. I lost my mom at the age of 9, you know, when I was 9. There's loss of loved ones, there's loss of jobs, or even changing of jobs, having a baby, life changes. Like, there is so many things that, especially with major change, that just trigger for people. And we aren't really taught, we certainly aren't taught at school, we aren't taught from a young age, how do we cope? How do we process a lot of things? And this is where I think we really just need to keep these conversations going about mental health. And it should be just as important, maybe even more important than physical health, right? We need to be able to feel comfortable in asking for help. And I think in doing so too, we start to realize our shared humanity, and the fact that, we aren't alone. We aren't isolated. I think, for me, I know when I was young, I felt like I was the only child in the world who didn't have a mother, right? I felt completely strange and odd and different. And that isolated me. And I think that's, a struggle for so many, is when you think I'm the only one going through this.
Right.
And you're not, right?
Yeah.
There's some billion people on the planet. A lot of people are going through things that are similar, and just being able to talk about that and get help is so important.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. And I think it just needs to be the norm, right? Mm-hmm. That we have these discussions. And I think that's one of the great things about us being in the school system, is we're starting with those social emotional discussions, as young as kindergarten. I think that's where we need to have it. It has to be the normal conversation. My 9-year-old, I always use Maggie as an example. She has struggles with anxiety, but she's doing really well right now. But she went through therapy, and she said to me the other day, she said, "Mom, I haven't had my anxiety for a long time." And I said, "Well, thanks, that's great." So it's a common conversation. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Right. And I think it really needs to be the norm that we all can struggle. And I love the fact that you said, that people think it needs to be this extreme circumstance in order to go to counseling. And that's just not the truth. Maybe you just, like I said, you need somebody to talk to and just to kind of process things with, and to get through that situation, or whatever's going on in your life right now. And I think that is okay. And man, I haven't been in therapy for a while, but I just remember getting out of those therapy sessions and thinking, it feels so much better. Just getting that out and being able to discuss that with somebody else who is going to be totally non-objective, right? They're going to be there, but they're going to be there to advocate for you and not give you all the answers, but to be able to reflect it back to you and say, this is what I hear. And then you're able to process that along with somebody who you feel comfortable with, right? So
yeah. I love that you just started to kind of give an example, because maybe somebody out there is listening and they've never been to a counseling session. They don't really know what it is, because sometimes that's a barrier too, is just the fear of the unknown.
Right.
So maybe we can just talk for a minute about that too. Like, what would they expect,
right,
if they were to come in and have a session?
Yes, that's a great question. So here at Heartland, what we do is we actually have a walk-in clinic Monday through Thursday. And right now it's virtual because of COVID. But what you would do is you would call and say, I would like to see a therapist. And my front desk staff, they're going to go through and go through all this paperwork with you over the phone. And right now we're allowed to do virtual signatures. So what we would do is we would go through, and then the first step is you're going to have what's called an initial diagnostic interview. It's called an IDI. So in the beginning, it's very much like a doctor's office, where you're going to go in and you're going to fill out all that paperwork, and we're going to ask questions, because based on the answers, we're going to hook you up with the best therapist we think is going to be a great match for you. So this last week, I had somebody call me and say, who do you think would be a good therapist at Heartland for this situation? And so I said, well, I think this person would be great. And so you can request a specific person, or you can say, I'm really struggling with my 5-year-old, and I'm having really hard, they're having all these tantrums and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm just not sure what to do. So we may actually take that and go 2 different directions. We may say, you thought about getting your child in for PCIT, which is parent-child interactive therapy. But then also let's do some therapy with you for some support. And so it may be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was possible. So not only can I get support for myself, but maybe I can learn some new parenting techniques to try out with my child. And so we're going to individualize that as much as we can to the therapist that specializes in that particular area. And or somebody may come in and say, you know, I really want to see a young woman. For whatever reason, that makes them feel more comfortable. Same thing with me, right? When I go to the doctor or even to my OBGYN, I want a woman. That's just my preference. So we always ask, what is your preference? Is your preference, you know, male, female? Is it morning, in the evening? What is your preference of all of these things? And so we meet those preferences. So that's a huge piece of what we want to be able to give to our clients. We want it to be person-centered, and we want them to lead where they need to go, because we feel like, I mean, that's why we're here. We're here to help them. And so not everybody may understand that in the beginning of where they want to go, but we're going to help guide them in that direction. So, and if they come in and say, we don't care, put us with whoever, then we'll probably put you with somebody who has, you know, the closest opening, right? But but I want to be clear that the first intake is going to be done by the highest licensed individuals we have. And so in Nebraska, that's called an LIMHP, Licensed Independent Mental Health Practitioner. And so that intake is going to be done with that person. And then that's when you're going to say, these are my preferences. Then your next session or your ongoing therapy may be done with a completely different person. You may get to, you know, you may say, hey, I really like you. Can I stay with you? And there's a chance that they can. But if they say, you know, I would prefer to be with a guy, and then we're going to refer them to one of our male therapists. So it just depends, but that's kind of the process. So it's really, if you think about it, like, let's say you have the flu, right? And you just don't feel good. You're going to go to the doctor probably, or you may not. It's that simple. Just with the same thing with mental health. You know, I've been feeling down. I don't know really what it is. I'm not quite sure if I really am depressed or not, or maybe I just have some anxiety, or maybe I'm trying to adapt to this change through COVID. And I just need to figure out if this is, you know, I just need some help trying to process this. That's as simple as it is.
Yeah, wonderful. So can we talk a little bit more about, you mentioned, you caught my attention, you started talking about like art therapy and yoga and some of these things. Who can participate in those things, or how does that work?
Right. So art therapy is near and dear to my heart. I'm a board certified registered art therapist. There's not very many of us in Sioux City. So we have some grant money that helps pay for those alternative therapies, I guess you can say. So at the Life Center, that is our day rehab program. And it's like a drop-in center. We're open Monday through Saturday. Really, you have to have a diagnosis. It can be adjustment disorder, right? So let's say right now you're adjusting to COVID, or maybe you're going through a divorce, or maybe you just moved and you lost your job. Those are adjustments. And so in order for us to get any type of reimbursement, you have to have a diagnosis. You can see a therapist in Sioux City. You can see a therapist somewhere else in Siouxland, all of Siouxland. And as long as we have a referral form with a diagnosis on it, and that referral form is then sent to Heartland, then our case manager at the Life Center will reach out to you. And that's on certain, we have music therapy on certain days, which we work with. Right now it's virtual. So our music therapist is actually out of Omaha. Our yoga therapist we work with is Megan through Lumen Therapy. So she does chair yoga.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yep. So she comes every other week to do therapy with us. And right now, of course, it's virtual. And then we work with Molly Pace, who's an art therapist in Sioux City, and she does group art therapy with us every other week. So and then the dietitian, right? So we have, and she comes and healthy eating. She does lots of different recipes and gives us lots of good ideas on how we can improve, because that's a huge piece of our mental health, right? Is what we put in our body.
Absolutely.
And you, I mean, most of us know, and if you don't know, then like when we are depressed, we may eat more, or we're bored, we eat, and we may be feeling irrational and sit down and eat. So she gives us lots of great ideas too of how can we handle that, and what are some good things to put into our system. So it's really just, we need a referral. You can call and even ask, hey, I heard about the Life Center. And I think a big misconception is it's for people with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities. No, this isn't. This is for people just like you and I, who are trying to stay in recovery, or when I say recovery, that's another misconception. Lots of people think recovery is related to substance use, which it is, but recovery is also about mental health. And how are we keeping track and staying in recovery with our mental health? So like, again, I'm a good example. I have anxiety, right? How am I using my coping skills to maintain my mental health? I have to use those things every day. So, but if somebody is interested in doing those other things, and the cool thing is, this is all completely free. Or I shouldn't say free, it's no out-of-pocket expenses, right? So if you have Nebraska insurance or Nebraska Medicaid, we're going to bill that Medicaid. If you're in Iowa, then again, Iowa Medicaid would reimburse us for that. But if you have private insurance doesn't pay for those things. So that's when we use the grant money to help get reimbursement. So, but there's no out-of-pocket expenses for people in Siouxland to attend the Life Center. The biggest barrier is going to be, we have to have that referral form. So that would be the barrier, or the need, I guess.
It's actually a pretty small barrier.
It is.
Considering what other things could be. So
yes. Yeah. And it's great that we're able to offer those things, because, sometimes traditional therapy or traditional talk therapy isn't for everybody. So, trying out some different things, take that leap, right? Because if we don't grow, if we don't take that challenge or that new thing, we're not going to grow. And so I think sometimes you have to jump over that hurdle.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So is there any other things that you wanted to talk about or go a little bit more in depth on?
So a couple things that we had talked about prior was, I want everybody to know that we have a program called Trees of Hope, and that is based around the Christmas season. But two things: we're always accepting Christmas trees. So if you want to send donate a Christmas tree, we're always taking Christmas lights and Christmas decorations throughout the year. I actually saw a couple out here in the hallway right now. And at Christmas time, we give away Christmas trees to folks who may be struggling they can't afford it, or maybe they just don't have one. And so then we are able to bless them with this Christmas tree with all the lights and all the decorations. And it's so neat to see their reactions, and the kids, if they have children. So, and there's an application process at Christmas time. And the reason why we do it's a mini application, like, do they live in a house? Do they live in an apartment? Because we want to get the right size tree for them.
Sure.
So we do that. It's for anybody. You're single, you have a family, you don't have a family, doesn't matter. And we don't ask for any type of verification of income, nothing like that. It's just very open. And then the other thing is, if anybody ever wants to do any type of donations of canned foods or dry goods, we do that all year long, again, for the Life Center, because they make breakfast and lunch every day. So again, or laundry detergent. So again, that's another, they can do their laundry there for free. And so that's another area where we would accept like laundry detergent as well. So yeah.
Wonderful. all things easy enough to donate.
Yes.
So when you're
Yes.
at the store, just grab a little bit of extra and
Yep.
pass it
Exactly.
along.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Did you want to touch on too? I know we had also talked about housing. You have some housing
Oh
for the
yeah.
homeless, and
And
I don't
yes,
think we really went
actually,
into that. And I'd like to just touch on that real quick before we wrap up.
yes. So I'm glad you brought that up. So we have a new, it's going to be ongoing, and it's HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development. It's for Dakota County and Woodbury County. So it's called Permanent Supported Housing. And so we receive funding to house 14 homeless individuals. And to get in permanent supported housing, they have to have some type of disability, and they have to be chronically homeless. So we have 14 apartments. They're scattered, so they're all over. They're Dakota County, Woodbury County. So far we have housed 8 individuals, so into their forever homes, which is amazing. And to get into that program, you would have to apply through coordinated entry, which is ran by ICA, and they are housed at Center for Siouxland. So you'd have to call Center for Siouxland if you know somebody who is homeless and they want to get into some type of housing. But we also, I didn't even think about that, Stacy, but if anybody ever wants to donate sheets or towels, even small furniture, because these are folks who have nothing. Most recently, we housed a couple who have been homeless for 10 years and living on the streets of Siouxland. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome. I was fortunate. I got to help 2 single guys move in. And it was right in the middle of COVID, but we got them in. And so we have our masks on and we're loading furniture in and out of this little apartment. But oh my gosh, the thrill on their faces that they're so excited that they finally got into their own place. It's pretty humbling, really. I mean, it's just makes you think of how grateful you are for everything you have. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I'm guessing if someone does have like some furniture or something like that, they should call you guys first, and you can coordinate
yes.
that.
Yep. They can call, our number is 402-494-3337. And they can just say, hey, I have some furniture for the homeless. You can even say the homeless program or permanent supported housing, the housing program. And then our case manager, Nicole, would call them back and try to set up a time to go pick those things up. So, yeah.
Wonderful. I love it.
I
love it.
It is exciting. That is super exciting. That we started that in January, and to have 8 people housed already is awesome. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. I'm so glad you had time to come on with me today and talk to everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Jennifer.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I will post on here once I get off all of the information too, so that it's easy to find you. So we'll put that on there for our viewers.
Awesome.
And so I want to thank you again, and then thank all of you out there who are tuned in and watching. I would appreciate it if you would consider liking these videos and sharing them, especially sharing them. And this is how we keep these conversations going. This is how we continue to just break down this just the stigma around mental health. We need to get it out there that we're all humans. We all have challenges in our life, and we need support from people. I mean, that's why there's people, there's all of us, right? Because we need each other. So please share these. Please, if you need help, reach out. If you know somebody that needs help, support them and encourage them to reach out as well. So tomorrow night, we have Jackie Polson on, our Ask the Therapist column. Hope that you will be able to tune in for that. And until then, just remember to take some time for self-care, find moments of joy, And just know that I'm here to support all of you guys. If you happen to be a small business owner or working with a nonprofit and you would like to come on just like Jennifer did and share information with this community about what's going on with you, I would love to have you. All you have to do is go to SiouxlandMagazine.com, check out my contact information, and just get a hold of me and we will get you scheduled. And don't forget, our magazines are on there as well. So read that digital magazine. There's always great stories about the people and the nonprofits and small businesses that make Siouxland great. Until next time, thanks everyone.